Jackson Podcast.
We got a treat for y'all on this episode. I'm very appreciative to the people that is watching the whole series. The people that may have caught an episode at chapter 5 or chapter 6 and you went back and you started over from the top. I see you. I see you. Just know I see you. But we want people to comment on the show. Leave your perspective in the comment section and your thoughts and your experiences because we want to hear from y'all. But today, the treat is that we're doing 2 chapters on one episode. So, chapter 7, I Want a Divorce. Chapter 8, The Move Out. And I'm welcoming the author to the show, and I'm very thankful that you guys are here with us. How are you doing today, Eric?
I am doing very great. I am excited about tonight's show. We're going to cover a lot of content, and we're going to kind of give the listening audience some things to think about, as well as some constant reminders of what we're doing together as a team.
Yeah, you know, looking at this book, it's been an eye opener for me, and I've learned a lot. And I never thought that I would be doing a project like this, but this is a great project, and your book is better and better to me. Like these 2 chapters, they coexist effortlessly, and I want to know, like, I want a divorce. Like, those words are powerful. Those 4 words, I want a divorce. Now, in this chapter, you talk about the go along, get along plan. And I never heard it phrased like that before. Uh, I heard somebody say the go along, get along gang before. What's his name? The basketball player. He talks about Stephen A. Smith and all of those people, the go along, get along gang. And when I seen
Yes.
in your book, you phrase it in a marriage.
Yes.
I want to understand that. Could you help me with that, please, Eric? The go along, get along plan.
So first thing I'm going to put out, I think the concepts that we're talking about now are starting to pick up with intensity, and they're starting to become more widespread when we talk about marriages and relationships. The first thing before I address that particular topic is I want to make sure that the listening audience is aware of 2 dynamics that's going on. Number one, from time to time, you hear me talk about my divorce. The subject of the book is not necessarily about my divorce. I talk about a few things, but the topic of the subject of this book is not about me. It's not about my personal challenges. I add some. I want to make sure that we remind the listening audience that I actually did research. So I had a chance to interview approximately 64 guys. And as a result of that, I learned something. And I learned that these guys are sharing common themes. They're sharing a lot of things that's very similar. And I thought that was fascinating. So that was the root for me doing the book. So it's important for you guys to understand this isn't about me personally. This is about my attempt to understand who and what is the divorced man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put that out there. Number 2, thank you. I'm glad that you see the space for that, because it's not about me. It's about the life of the average divorced man. Now, getting back to your question, most men in America, I would say, what percentage would I say are participating in this mindset? I would say somewhere in the 60 to 70 percentile. Most of the married men that I know personally, the married men that I did interview, that is not a large sample of a total number, but we have engaged in what's called the go along, get along approach.
Yes, sir.
Which is we go along with our wives in order to get along with our wives. Give you an example. You may decide that you have a planned activity on the weekend. You may want to do something with the kids. You may want to work on a project. You may want to work on something in the garage. You may have a car that you're personally working on with a buddy. You could have a lot of things, and you got your plan, you got your day plan. Somewhere in the midst of your plan becomes another plan to you, which is the plan of your wife. Your wife comes with you something completely out the blue.
Oh, God.
Had nothing to do with what you want to do, had nothing to do with any of the things. And you're sitting there working, sitting there whatever, and you hear the plan and you go, okay.
Ooh.
At that particular precise moment, you are starting to have to make a decision. You have to go along in order to get along.
That's true, golly. You know, I don't want to make it specifically about me right now, too, though. But I just went through that.
Sure, you did.
Yeah, I'm talking about, man. I didn't know what it meant. I go along to get along.
Yes, you are trying to have a relationship where you have your things to be about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, it could be the other way around. But from my research and from what we get ourselves in situations where men struggle to say no, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got something planned. We struggle with that. We struggle with saying that word no to our wives. We struggle with that.
That is true.
And because we struggle with that, we get put in a situation where we're going along to get along.
Man, I love that right there, how you broke that down, because I can guarantee every man has experienced that. And I think women may experience that too, but not on the level that men do.
No, not on the same level. I'm not trying to make it equal. I'm not saying it's a 50-50. I'm saying that, and then when men talk to each other, the little that we do, we share some of these types of situations, and we all laugh, but we all understand that that's part of being a married man.
You know, I like that you talked about the interviews, because the interviews is intriguing to me, because you interview so many people to be researched to talk about the divorced man in totality. This book is a book about the divorced man in totality, the experiences, the things that he is going to experience in this. And this one question and one thing that was written that stuck out to me. And I'm going out of order and at this point, though. But
I like it. Yeah.
A collection of experiences stored within the mind. When I read that, I understand from a marriage perspective, but I understand in all aspects of life, and even in boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, friendships with friends or whatever, though. But the power of it in a marriage and then being divorced, this person that now I'm in a battle in the court with is gonna have a collection of experiences stored in my mind for life.
Yes, sir.
And that is so powerful to make the decision that I want to end all of this now. Why was that? Like, help me understand the power of that, and why was that mentioned in the book? Because that stuck out to me in chapter 7, like real broad.
So you just answered the question I was going to ask you, was what chapter are you referring to? So here's what happens. When you hear those words, within, I'm going to say within less than a couple of minutes, to be fair, all of those thoughts are boom. They're there.
Mm-hmm.
you go through some type of mental transformation where you're thinking about the past. You notice how I broke that chapter down.
Yeah.
You're thinking about past events. You're talking about current things that's on the table that you're currently dealing with. And you also think about things in the future. And you're trying your best to figure, you're hitting all of those things. You're hitting all of those things all at once, and you're trying to process them. Man, because you've been triggered by this request.
Yeah, that triggering. I bet, like, I'm just assuming that you can remember things that you hadn't thought about in years when those words are spoke to you, that I want a divorce, because those experiences, man, I can remember stuff from when I was 5 years old and I'm 45. I can remember experiences that I've had with people, and this person who I've spoke, I done, man, agreed under the laws and terms and put my hand on the Bible and all of this type of stuff. Those experiences are going to last with me forever.
The challenge is that, honestly, and I'm going to be very, very open with you on that. You're talking about the birth of a child. You're talking about potentially the death of parents. You're talking about major health scares, health situations, promotions, catastrophe, hurricanes, displacement. You're talking about a lot of life situations are suddenly tied up with an individual. And then you get to hear on the other side of that this individual, for whatever reason, statistics will point to that reason. You get to hear that back on you and say, hey, I don't want that anymore. And it is a surreal moment. It's just like one of those moments where you will always remember where you were, the date, the time, the location. You remember forever hearing those words. Like they will stay with you. That is a form of emotional trauma. And then on the other side, being a man, no one really is interested in hearing those perspectives of you, because it goes back to the burden. You as a man must have done something in order to cause this to happen. So that's why I put that in there, because if and when you hear those words are powerful. Yeah. They are powerful.
You know, I'm listening to you talking. I'm thinking about all the stuff that we talked about, and I want to get back to the point where we talked about the interviews and the research again. But I can't help but think this in my mind. You know, men are conditioned to fight even when times are hard. To keep striving and make things better. We're built to fix problems and figure things out, figure situations out. And over my researching this subject matter and this topic, I come to realize that I'm not saying that what I'm saying is like a law or anything, but I come to realize that women can lay with you and look you in your eyes for years and know they don't want to be with you and walk away effortlessly. And when the situation benefits them and it's the right timing to do it. That is crazy to me.
It is chilling is what it is. It's chilling. And it's chilling.
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear about it, it's another to observe it and look at it, because it will affect you mentally. And I am man enough to discuss it, but I'm also I've also taught, and I've heard about other men say the same thing, that they couldn't believe after this, after that, after this, after that, that this woman that I loved, defended, could easily detach from a relationship. And it's not just me saying it, it's a lot of other men who say the same thing.
Yeah, man, because you've done the research. And
yeah, I talk to guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just tripping off of that because I'm thinking about like her knowing that this is decision it already is made in her mind, and the man knowing that the relationship is rocky, but he's steady going to work. He might even get another job. She complaining he ain't home. He trying to provide. It might be a disagreement within the family of doing something. She's already at the door, but he is constantly trying to fix something that is unfixable. And that is just wild to me. But back to the interviews, you know, men remembering the date, time, and the place when they was told that I want a divorce. That is another thing also that is amazing to me, how a man can point where he was told that because how it affected him. That is crazy because it's not that many things in a person's life where it had that much power to affect you, where you can remember how it felt, probably how the weather was, where you was standing at when it was said, remembering the date, time, and place. What was the people saying in the interviews about that? If you could inform us a little more.
Yeah. During my interviews, there were two consistent patterns that I remember. One is that what you all get when you get served papers. So when you get served papers, but that's a surreal moment. I've had guys talk about they were taking care of a family member and the wife would send papers. I've seen guys on vacations. I mean, it's especially on the work. The workplace is a popular place. It's a popular place to get those formal papers during the separation period. But a lot of them will choose to reveal it during counseling, like a counseling session, like two people getting together and they say we're having problems, and then the same person say, "Well, you know, I decided that I want out of this marriage," and that's another popular way to hear that. It's a big decision to be made. It's not a light one, but it is a challenging one, and you will remember every aspect of that. Every aspect of that you will remember.
That's crazy that you said they do it during a session. What type of session again? I don't want to misquote you.
A lot of the guys indicated that, which is pretty interesting, that they did it during like a marital counseling session, where you were currently going to seek, and then I think at some point, the wife would just say, "Hey, I don't want the marriage anymore."
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's eye opening because saying that during a time when a person is trying to fix it again lets me know that person knew that they was out the door. So before
out the door.
Yeah, they've been out the door before they even got there. So you shouldn't even have went. You didn't have no reason to go because you was mentally kicked out already.
That's part of the posturing that has to be done. That goes back to the playbook. That goes back to the narrative. It's all done with the intentions of A, keeping you off balance, 2, hoping that your emotional reaction can be documented by someone. How many men do you know who get into a situation like that, and how do they respond? Do they fly off the handle? Do they start? It's all of that is done by design. It's not necessarily, well, hey, you could have easily told the person before you got there. But some of us are calculating your behavior because, again, it creates a story that's going to be used down the road against you.
We back to the story.
And men, we just simply don't know. We just, but keep in mind this, though, keep this part in mind. Not every man is going to receive this. Not every man is going to receive this.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that if there is a man listening to this podcast who has just received those words and experiencing the emotional pain and all the, my thing to you is you are not alone. Your response is normal.
Yeah.
Your response is normal. If you feel that you cannot control your emotions, as opposed to seeking the marriage counseling side, I highly suggest, as I have done consistently in my book, please take time to see a mental health professional to help you deal with those transitions. Because I can connect with you, and there's millions of men who can connect with you.
Yeah, definitely reach out, purchase the book. You know, even if a person didn't want to comment on the show, man, you could email me and I could reach out to Eric also, because on the channel where this podcast is located, it has all links to my personal way that I want people to be able to connect with me. And I would love to hear from guys about this topic and how they're dealing with things and how they feel about going through certain things. And if I can assist in any way in a person's pathway to winning their thing, their situation, or their pathway to just happiness again and moving forward, I would love to be able to do that. You know, it's in this chapter also, I know you laid me up. You gave me the alley-oop too to ask this question. I see how you playing now, Eric, too.
You see how I'm playing that, right?
Yeah.
I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to win it.
Yes, sir. The mental health world. You know,
Yes.
I never heard of emotional validation.
Yeah.
Of past emotional traumas. How, like, going about getting validation for my emotions. Is that what is that like what people do when they go see mental health counselors or whatever they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I borrowed that from the premise. I think we talked about that briefly around the AA, the Alcoholic Anonymous concept. I've written several papers on how they are able. I've actually had a chance to witness one where the power of sharing versus non-sharing. And from my understanding, the problem that a lot of men have is men do not receive emotional validation on their traumas. We don't. If anything, we tend to shut down on seeking that, which only furthers more hostile behavior, and it only creates negative behavior. And when women get with a man who's divorced, which comes later down the book, they'll start saying, well, I don't understand who hurt you. Why can't you get over this past relationship? And I hear that all the time. And it's because that man has not had his emotional trauma validated, not only from women, but from other guys. So the whole purpose of what we're doing, what you and I are doing right now, the purpose of the book, is for men to say, hey, I've been there with you. I understand you are not unique in your trauma, but you were part of a pattern of dysfunctional behavior.
That's powerful to me, because when I think of validation, I think that I need somebody else to tell me to move forward and what I'm doing is right. And oh man,
it works.
It
works.
Is it necessary?
Because I went through it. I would say in order to move forward, you have to have someone to validate your experiences, to define what went wrong, to also point out things that you yourself did that was inappropriate, was wrong. You got to have that. And so, like, if you look at the cycle that we're on, we talked about the need for having an attorney, right? Having a bulldog attorney. When we get to chapter 8, there's going to be a need to have law enforcement. We're going to get to that shortly. But you also got to have a mental health person who can validate your experiences. Because when I finally got a good person to talk to, she really validated my experiences on what I went through, why I felt the way that I did, and it really helped put me in a better mental condition to go forward.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I didn't. That's deep to me because, you know, when I be going through things emotionally and I never experienced a divorce, I want to say that off top. I never received validation from other people. I never have, but I wish I had validation, but it's just interesting that how that could be a benefit. Go ahead.
So before you put that in the parking lot, as they say, you kind of put it there and you kind of revisit it. Look at how women. Look at the number of. Look at how women. How women rebuild.
Yeah.
From divorce.
Yeah.
I've read about 3 books in summary about how women. Look at how women rebuild.
They level up after the divorce.
Look at their counseling.
A multitude.
Look at them.
Yeah, they have a multitude of validation.
They validate all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is so troubling about men realizing that they're not robots, that they have emotions, they have a wide range of emotions? Because if you don't address that, you're going to continue some destructive patterns. You just will. Or you're going to go down a life of drugs, you're going to go down alcohol, chasing other women. It's a clear pattern of what is established. So again, the whole 9. I mean, that's an extreme, but that's the purpose of what you and I are doing is so powerful. Yeah. What you and I are doing is so very powerful to try to get men to come to the pool, drink the water, to understand that this is a traumatic event.
You checked me right there, and I appreciate it because I was that's a problem that I haven't been getting validation from certain things, because women do get validation from they get validated before the divorce even happens. So why should?
Of course, and then even afterwards, read some of the female support books. Read some of them. It's amazing. It's amazing the stuff that I have read about how men did this, and you need a man to do this, and you need to do the man do that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I think you chose a bad guy. You were attracted to some type of behavior, but they do a much better job. And to finally answer the question on this one, I simply use what I learned from the AA model, which is an effective model. If you're dealing with with the negative effects of alcohol, AA is a phenomenal tool to get you to see that other people are going through it, with the hopes that when that time comes around to you, you can share yours. It just creates a space. That's all. It's a brilliant, brilliant therapy, and I'm trying to do the same thing for me.
Yeah. Man, that question, that we could go on that question.
Yes, you can.
We could go for a long time, because the mental health world, being emotional validation of past emotional traumas. I apologize for that cough. The pollen. It's pollen season. It's kicking my butt, y'all.
Doesn't it? It's on me as well. But we got some rain today, so we're a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. let's move forward in the conversation, because that got me right there. That emotional validation, that got me. But we're gonna go deeper into this question, but I still want to ask it anyway from
Yeah.
chapter 7, because we got we're
Mhm.
gonna go deeper when we get into chapter 8 about
Mhm.
finding somewhere to live.
Oh boy. Woo.
Oh man, we don't have to touch that too hard, because we're gonna get deeper in it with the Chris Rock conversation. I'm gonna read a part of the book also about what
Yeah.
Chris Rock said, but you know, it's funny defending the home. We talked about this in a couple of chapters, defending the home, they're having to leave the home. And everybody I know personally who has had a divorce, as a man, they had to leave. They had to leave the home that they was protecting, that they was fighting for, that they
Mhm.
was paying the bills on. And
Mhm.
I just want to say this: after the divorce is finalized, the home is gone. I know
Yeah.
10
Potentially,
men.
yes.
I know 10 men that most of the time the home is gone, because
Yeah.
a multitude of finances ain't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
And now she profit or whatever from the equity, and then she downgrade and start all over of
Mm-hmm.
what she's capable of affording. It's just interest. That's her. It's a reality though. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will keep making references to the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Please go back, listen to the playbook. That is one main goal of the playbook, is to create a culture of blame.
Mm.
After you hear those words, I want a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
From that moment forth, whether it's financial problems, relationship problems with a child, the fact that you're not participating in the divorce at the same level that your ex is, expect to be blamed. Expect to have attention placed on everything that you do.
That's crazy.
Just expect that.
That's crazy too, because you didn't even make the decision to have the divorce. Why should I have the same intensity in moving forward that you have?
Well, it goes kind of back to what you just said previous. Why is there a cultural expectation for a man to leave the home? Why is it a cultural expectation for when a man and woman are arguing, they're in conflict, you hear the words, I want a divorce. And then after that, you hear that other one, well where are you going to live, or where are you going to move, which takes us to chapter 8. Why is there such a cultural expectation for the man to have to do that? Has nothing to do with finance, has nothing to do, you hear, my name is on the deed, my name, I've heard it in both scenarios where the I've seen men who have had to leave and they're paying the majority of the bills in the home. Their name is on the mortgage. So all of this concept about my name is on the mortgage, so therefore you have to leave, that doesn't hold water. There's a cultural expectation for the man to leave the home. And that is a form of trauma as well.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. And we've talked about laws based upon state during
Yeah.
this series. Is there any state where if I'm as a man, the owner of the home, and her name isn't on the deed, she she can't obtain the home within a divorce? I don't know if we've done the research for that though, but that's just interesting to me.
So on that one, when we get to chapter 8, you'll see now why I'm saying that in every one of these chapters, as a man, you've been punched in the mouth, and now you need to follow. Let's review what you need. You need a great attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You need some type of mental health professional at some point in time to address the trauma. Now you also are going to need law enforcement, because now if we transition to chapter 8, and I think this is a good pivot question, now it becomes, what happens if you decide you're not going to leave? And that's another part of the chapter on chapter 8 where I talked about having to move out.
Yeah.
Because now you're in a different situation, which now you will be able to lead us in that conversation.
I want to read a part of chapter 8 before we even get into the questioning to start it off, because this is one of the points of the book that, because I don't know much about Chris Rock. I just know that he's a great comedian. He played Pookie.
Chris Rock is amazing. He's
yeah, multi-talented individual, more than a comic. He's been in movies and he's done great stand-up. He has his own specials and all type of stuff. But I didn't know about his personal life and his divorce. So reading this from chapter 8, Chris tells us he learned no man is living in his own home, because every man is living in his wife's home. And this is 100% fact. For some reason, over 90% of marriages in the US end when the man is expected to move out of his home, regardless of any financial arrangement, names on loan, financial income, or economic status. Men are often asked to leave the home without any explanation, consideration, or justification by the loving wife. Once a move out happens, never look back.
That's true. That is true. Chris Rock talked about it in his divorce, and he made a joke about it, and it was funny, but it was also very. And he's doing the same thing that I'm trying to do. He's obviously on a much bigger platform than I have. But you're not living in your home. You're living in your home as long as things are good. When things are go bad and suddenly, regardless of the name, the title, and all those things, you'll see that that's not how it plays out in reality. Which is why law enforcement, and I keep talking about law enforcement, but I definitely want to address the Chris Rock part of it, because it was funny, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah, it was. Sometimes reality is hilarious, and it's not hilarious at the same time.
It happened to him. He was expected to leave. He was told to leave, and he left.
You know, that could the move out could be more traumatizing than I want a divorce.
Moving is challenging regardless, but moving out under a breakup is absolutely one of the most challenging things that I ever had to endure. But in time, with God's grace, you will recover from that trauma. It doesn't necessarily go away, but you can recover from that, and you can live to tell the story to help another man to minimize his story. Because we as men, we have to, and you and I were talking about this at the end of the last podcast, we have to do a better job of reframing these arguments, and we have to do a better job of supporting each other, because women do a phenomenal job of just that. They are phenomenal of having the ability to support, guide, direct. Not always good advice. Not always good advice, but they are phenomenally gifted in this aspect where we haven't gotten to the table yet.
Yeah, and man, I don't know if the laws is geared to helping them win. Society is geared to helping them win. Men are against men, to be honest, because they agree with this idea. A lot
Yes.
of guys agree with this idea because it's normal. It's what socially has been
just expected to do.
Yeah. And I understand not wanting to throw a woman out in the street. I can understand that. But when separating, I don't know if like leave her the house regardless of if she can pay for it. That's like leaving her a certain amount of income or something. Like I just don't know. It's like it's weird. The move out is weird.
The move out is weird. It is. But see, I don't think it's necessarily about the economics. I think it's a level of entitlement that puts you again as the man. You're expected to do all these things. And you're expected to have good attitude about it. You can't be, it takes a lot to move in the middle of a relationship. All your belongings, it takes a lot. It really does a number on you. That's why, again, I put the two together. I put the move out and I put the I want a divorce because they typically go together. And there's that one in between. It's like, have you found somewhere to live yet? Do you know where you're going to be living now? And during that time is some of the most dangerous times for men because most of the men I talked to, most of them agreed to find. You know why? Because this is what the cultural expectations were. Some men fought it. Some men stayed in. The stories that happen when a man doesn't go, a woman will literally have the ability to call the police on you. If you get into an argument, they have been known to pick fights. And all that has to happen is that phone call. That phone call has to come in. There's a domestic dispute.
Yeah.
And you're going to leave.
You out of there.
So it's important. It's important during this phase to make sure that you have a good relationship because law enforcement has been known to be used in this situation.
Yeah, and they agree to society's norms more than anything because it's a law. It's law.
Yes, sir.
It's law to take the woman's side first or the person who called first.
Yeah. Are there domestic abuse situations where men are beating women? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Are there situations where women are fearful of men? Absolutely, they are. And I just want it to be known that those situations do exist. They do. The difference is on a divorce, there's a cultural expectation for the man to vacate the premise.
You made me think about a law that was passed in New York City in 2023. And I understand it, but I don't understand the abuse of it because it's being abused. I don't want to say, I'm just going to abbreviate it. SA. So SA in New York has no statute of limitations now. And that's the only city in the United States that has no statute of limitations. So they can go back to the 40s if a person SA'd somebody and charge them.
Did you know the definition of SA is constantly changing? So it's not even an objective thing. It's changing itself.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's changing what that definition is and what it means.
It's not concrete.
It's not concrete anymore. It's not.
Yeah.
So this is why law enforcement, I think in chapter 8, I think the men who are listening, you need to be mindful of the law enforcement part.
Mhm.
She asked you to go.
Go.
You don't want to go. She asked you to go. You don't want to go. Realize that you may take that hardline approach, but you're asking for the tensions to escalate. And once the tensions escalate, there's a great chance that law enforcement can be brought into that picture.
And make
Which
life
then
worse.
Which then affects your, what did I say? The number one thing that you have to protect is your employability.
Yeah. You know, you set me up again too, because it's a part in this chapter also where you said let's talk about the financial stresses. You know, what I mean,
Yes,
written in this chapter, and
yes.
specifically the impact on credit rating and retirement.
Yeah.
Because
Oh boy.
I didn't
Underrated.
I didn't understand like that. That is a great amount of knowledge to tell a man right now, because I guarantee men, I wasn't aware of that till I read it. How can a divorce have an impact on your retirement and your credit rate?
Oh boy. Well, depending upon the level of wealth that you create on our time here on earth will determine what kind of retirement that you have. And you could be a CEO of a major corporation, you could be a professional athlete, you could be whatever. And you could have a very wealthy possibility for retirement. Well, your retirement is also one of the things that is going to be disputed in a divorce settlement.
Oh my God. Don't do
It
me.
is not common. It is not common. It's pretty common rather for people to go after other people's retirement or to go after a certain portion of their retirement. That's fair game in the divorce world. It is. Your ability to move out, your ability to have a strong credit score, to be able, which could be tied to property, your ability to move into an apartment, all of that is worthy of your credit score. If you don't have a strong credit score, you will find it difficult to move out to anywhere in America.
I see why people crash out now. I see it clearly. You're messing with my credit score. You want some of my retirement, and then the IRS going to tax my retirement. Now you want a piece of everything that I've been working for these last 40, 50 years, or however long I work, and you want some while you're walking out the door. Goodness
While
gracious.
I'm walking out the door, potentially.
Oh, what, forcefully.
While I'm walking out the door, having to relocate, having to get a new place, all based on your credit worthiness. Yeah, you're going through a lot. Your retirement, your ability to be eligible for retirement, your ability to have financial savings, all of those things all come into play. And again, my purpose for this show is to talk about what other men have gone through, because most men are clueless about this and they only find out when it is too late.
Thank you for this education. Like, you know, I have more questions to ask though, but you know, that was so powerful. If I was a divorced man or getting ready to go through a divorce and heard that, I wouldn't have to hear no more. Taking
You would
what
not.
I wouldn't even have to hear no more. That right
Yeah.
there was enough knowledge right there to even make a man not even that ain't married, not even want to get married.
We'll save the topic for another time to talk about your Social Security as well, because that's another tricky one as well.
Oh my God! Don't tell me they could get. They could, oh my goodness!
We'll leave that one for later. All right.
thank you. And we also previously talked about if you have bank accounts overseas, if you have overseas
Hmm.
accounts, we talked about that a little
That
bit also. But when we get
that requires money. That requires money. That requires a lot of things. Can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done.
God,
It does require a little more money, and it requires a very, very smart
lawyer,
financial. There's a name for it. Forensics. It's forensics.
mm,
Financial forensics. Yeah.
you know what's crazy about that too is that I don't think women to go after that because it costs a little bit more money because they don't want to invest
It does.
in getting and getting yeah
It does. It costs a little bit of money. Yeah.
yeah
Costs a little bit of money. You got to have a talented person.
yeah. So let's move along in the conversation because wow, that got
Yes,
me.
sir.
I'm stuck now. I wanted to answer a question. There was a question in here that
Mm.
okay. I found this question to be interesting, and I wanted to try to answer it, and then you tell me your thoughts about my answer. So the question is, why does our society allow women to have power to have men removed
Yeah.
from their homes? You
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't want a woman to be homeless, and I think that a lot of these things are outdated because a home may not have been as valuable as it was previously as it is now because
Yeah.
I don't know why society allowed that and why it's acceptable. It's just people want to sympathize with women no matter what.
Hmm.
They want to
Hmm.
sympathize, they want to view them as weak, they want to view them as they're not capable when that's been a lie probably before both of us was born. And
Yes.
I don't have an answer for it, but I just think that that's interesting that when I read that in the book, society allows women to have power over men to remove them from their homes.
Hmm.
This chapter so far for me is maybe the most powerful one because the move out. I haven't experienced that before, but I can imagine that it's devastating. Yeah.
It never gets talked about. It never gets brought up. I've had a chance to read a couple of books written by women about divorce. They never mention it. It's only a couple of lines, and they'll say something to the effect of, well, when he moves out, or make sure that he moves out. There's no ramifications at all or expectations around it at all. It's just a thing that we do.
Yeah.
But then it comes full circle when that same woman is in the presence of a divorced man and she cannot understand why his behavior, why his attitude is so negative towards her.
Hmm.
Is that fair? No, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to take out that kind of frustration, but it's how our society chooses to do things. And my job, thanks to the good work that you're doing, is to simply reveal the research that I've learned so that other men will have a fighting chance. That's my only answer. I just want to give men a chance. That's all we're trying to do here.
I want to say something too about I don't have children, right? But
Yeah.
what I want to say about this is that I think about some of the terminology that we've been speaking, happy wife, happy life, over this whole
Mm-hmm.
series. Just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of terminology. And would you say that fathers are guilty, or just we just assuming fathers are
Mm-hmm.
guilty of teaching their daughters some of this behavior? Because don't get no man that don't love you or don't got no money or
Um, I'm gonna answer that question with what. It's funny that you would bring that up. I'm gonna let you make sure you answer the question, and then I'm gonna pushed back by my own side of what you're just talking about. Go ahead and finish.
But the reason I'm saying this is because I don't like, people try to throw those things on me, and I'm happy that I got married at a later year in my life. I don't know what effect that'll have on the marriage over of the long term or whatever, or if it has an effect at all. But me getting married at 41, I didn't let people project those things over me. Happy wife, happy life. I don't like when people say that your main thing that a man's supposed to do is provide and protect. I don't like that, because that's not reality.
Yeah.
I'm only capable of what I'm capable of. And it's just, the reason I say that, are the fathers guilty? Because I see how fathers put their daughters on a pedestal, and
yeah,
and ain't nothing wrong with that, but it could be misleading. It could be not, you're not living in reality, and you're misleading her for the long run. But it's just an interesting thought that came to my mind.
It is. It is an interesting thought. I would say there's some of that in there. There definitely is. The child thing, we're going to save that for later, because that's another chapter in the book. But I would push back and say, if that's true, I can accept that. I can accept that fathers, to some degree, have set that up. But on the flip side, let's look at it from the other side of the equation. At what point do mothers want to protect their sons?
Ooh. They don't even try to give us the game.
At what point does the mother try to protect their sons from the same stuff that you and I are talking about now? When does that happen?
I never.
When does that happen?
It don't happen.
So dad can take responsibility in some of the quasi-dysfunctional, depending on what side of the rainbow you're on. I get that part. And they can take onus on that, right? But on the other hand, in that same conversation, which you did a great job with that one, when do the women say, I don't want my son to go through this? I don't want my son to be put out. I don't want my son to have his life, his mental health, his career to be at fault because of a dispute.
And
what about that angle?
I don't think it. I don't have no answer for it. I don't think it exists. But what I would say is that, I seen something, and we talk about sports, and we use sports analogies during this review. And I seen where the quarterback for the Commanders, the young guy, he was speaking with Juju Watkins, right? The basketball girl from USC, Southern Cal. The truth. She the truth too. And it was in a flirtatious way. And the mother got in between them. The mother for the quarterback at the Washington Commanders. And instead of, I'm looking at this like, why do mothers, they don't want to she's not giving him the knowledge or whatever about the women. She's like, he can't talk to nobody. It's basically like she's the girlfriend to me. That's how I view it. Like, she's the girlfriend. But if you give him the knowledge, he can talk to any woman he want to as he please, and you still gonna be the mother. You still gonna be his woman or whatever. It's just.
But you got to remember that. Remember, moms are the first teacher. Mom biologically is the first teacher.
Yeah.
Period. That bond is something else. That's a special bond.
Yeah.
So dad can come in and provide some support, which I completely can see your point on that one. But I'm going to push back on the other side and say, knowing that situation, at what point, and I think about that, what point do the moms not want their sons to go through this?
Man. What point do moms want their sons not to go through this? I hope a female hears this also, because a mom shouldn't want their son to go through that. That is a drug that will have an effect on her, because she won't see her son happy. Her son might go in debt. Her son might lose the home and might have to move back in with mama. Some men might have to.
Will the mom side with the wife in terms of her happiness over her son's happiness?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a question I want the women to be able to respond to. I would love to hear the thoughts on that. Like, because I know it from a man's perspective, but I don't know it from a woman's perspective. What happens then?
Yeah. Man, this is a powerful chapter to me, man. I'm speechless.
These two chapters go together, because this is when you get the most chance for legal entanglement, not the ones we talked about first, but the physical, having the police called on you. This is the one where you got to physically, your finances are tapped, you've got to find a place to live. And while all of this is going on, you still have your life going on. You're still trying to build relationships with children, co-workers. This is a very, very tricky time. And again, I say to the men who are fortunate to listen, who have the good fortune to be able to hear this, number one, who do you have to turn to when you're going through this? And number two, if you cannot find a person who's providing some solutions, I'm trying to offer some solutions. I'm trying to give you some preparation for this.
Oh, man.
Please seek mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Seek some assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you owe it to yourself. You're too valuable of a man. You have a contribution to give to your family, despite the situation. But who do you have to turn to help you get through this? This is the purpose of the podcast, is to try to change the narrative that men are struggling with this issue. We have to do a better job of that.
That's true, man. That I don't even have the questions is irrelevant now. We summed it up in these last 15 minutes. Been very educational for me and very informational also, because I've learned a lot. I've learned a whole lot, especially these last 15 minutes just been awesome. And I appreciate your presence, Eric. And
yes, sir.
I just want to tell men to stay focused, stay positive, and stay strong, because this is a serious situation when you're dealing with a divorce and you have to go to court, you have to spend money, and nobody is on your side. Nobody is supporting you through this process. And check out this whole chapter, man. And we coming back next week to have another conversation. And I just appreciate you, Eric. I appreciate all the viewers, and I appreciate y'all giving us your time, giving us your hour, just viewing us and listening to the conversation. I hope you learned something from it and you got something from it, and I appreciate you. In closing,
thank you.
Thank you for your time, Eric.
Right.
We'll chop it up next week. I highly appreciate you, sir.
Always.
Yes, sir.
The Trevor Jackson